Landscape pros, it's time to break new ground on familiar turf. Nearly every one of your customers can benefit from drainage or stormwater management, and everything you need to get started can be found at Site One Landscape Supply. From a wide selection of drainage solutions to must-have resources to real-world expertise, Site One digs deeper than any other supplier, ensuring you're fully equipped for growth. Visit your nearest Site One branch today to add drainage and let the profits flow.
Where is that energy bill?
Meet Carl.
Ah, what?
Carl is on all fours, peering under his couch with a magnifying glass.
Who's there?
Carl's energy bill has shrunk to the size of a peanut. He took advantage of rebates on energy-efficient upgrades from Puget Sound Energy.
Wow, how'd you know that?
If you're a PSE customer, you can save hundreds, even thousands on energy-efficient upgrades at pse.com/rebates.
There it is. Nope, dust bunny.
Hey, Kayla.
Yeah, now?
What do you call a person who can't decide what kind of pizza to get?
What?
Indecisive.
Let me teach you how to eat. Let me teach you how to eat. How to marinate the meat.
KFI AM 640 live everywhere on that there iHeartRadio app. Hey, everybody, it's the Fork Report, all things food, beverage, and beyond. I am your well-fed host, Neil Saavedra. How do you do? Thanks for hanging out. We got a lot to get to today. We got some great guests from local restaurants. You know, everybody's still struggling, trying to make ends meet, find staff, find crew. We love to shine a light on them. We'll do that coming up in just a little bit. Also find out about just great food. How about that? And for Technique of the Week, let's get into butter, shall we? Butter. There was a story in the Wall Street Journal, and I must have been sent this story by at least 5 people. I don't know. Butter. People love butter. And the headline read, "This is better than butter," whether you're cooking steaks or roasting vegetables. And we've talked about this actually many, many times on the show, but I thought it'd be nice to get back into butter and explain what people refer to as culinary gold. It's something often referred to as ghee or clarified butter. Small differences depending on, ghee comes from India, and their process, I think, is really one of the best for clarified butter. It gets a little extra nuttiness. So what ends up happening is you cook out certain parts of the butter, and then you sieve them out. So you cook it down, separate it, and sieve them out. And in that process, you end up having something that is just pure butterfat. You don't have the milk solids. You don't have those things. And that will be part of our discussion today. But I thought instead of just focusing on ghee or clarified butter, I'd go through all the different types of butter. So I'll get into this and I'll explain how to make it coming up in a moment. But let's start with the basics. Unsalted butter. Often you'll see it labeled sweet cream butter. Same. And super versatile. It's used a lot in cooking and baking. The reason why it is used often in cooking and baking, so that the person baking or cooking can control the level of salt. In baking, I understand there's a lot of control there. I've always thought this notion was silly. You're talking about like a quarter teaspoon of salt. That's what's in a stick of butter. I think a lot of this, I've read article after article after article, that some people, that there was kind of a conversion problem when some of the old recipes were kind of brought into modern day. But for whatever reason, people swear by this. And that's because different makers might put different amounts of salt in it. And I get all of that. But if you're using the same brand from the same location all the time, I think you know how to compensate. There's salt in all kinds of things. There's salt in cheese. So I always thought it was a little, I hear people swearing by it all the time, and bakers will probably come at me, but they're the pros, I'm not. But I always thought that it's just one of those weird culinary things get passed down. So I have both here, and really unsalted is used for cooking and baking for the most part, and then salted butter is used as a spread when you're putting it on top of something like a piece of great bread, or even if you're topping off, I don't know, rice or something, I will use it. Salted butter is exactly like sweet cream butter. It just has that 1/4 teaspoon of salt in it. That's the reality. So those are the type of things that you have the most in the house. Those are probably what you have most. You could do one or the other. If you have unsalted, you just put a little salt on it. I had some wonderful, wonderful butter the other day and some bread, and the way it was served is with this gorgeous chunk of butter and with a side of salt, like finishing salt. Beautiful. And you could literally take that, put it onto your bread, and then sprinkle a little salt on it if you wish. Not a problem. Easy peasy. So let's get into the clarified butter part. This is what people refer to as culinary gold, and I'll tell you why. So the milk fat is rendered from the butter. And you separate the milk solids and the water from the butter fat. So you're cooking it at a low temperature, and as you're cooking it, when you put butter in a pan, you know how it bubbles and kind of sizzles a little bit? Well, the reason that is that the fat is starting to heat up, and what doesn't mix? Oil and water. So when you melt the butter down from a solid, the water in there starts to evaporate because the oil is heating up. That's why things make noise when you deep fry them. And that's why you don't want to put a frozen turkey, deep fry a frozen turkey for people who have done that. I have not, but I've seen the pictures, because oil and water don't mix. They have even less good times when the oil is hot. So that part of sizzling, once it starts to stop sizzling, then the water's gone. It's evaporated. Next, you're going to see these little bits of the milk fat start separating, and that's the process. Then you take it and you put it through a sieve and a cheesecloth that will catch all that milk fat, and what you'll have is clarified butter. No water in it, and the milk solids removed. What does that do? Well, it gives it a nutty flavor, because that milk fat in the process of rendering starts to caramelize and get that nutty flavor to it, which is wonderful. But really what it does is it changes the smoke point. Smoke point is important in oils and fats, because that means the smoke point is when they start to break down. That's when they lose some of their properties. That's when they start to get nasty smelling and things like that, and end up bringing a foul odor and taste to something rather than the loveliness that they're supposed to. Butter comes in at about 325, 375. That's when it starts to break down. That's when it starts to smoke really heavily. And that's why sauteing in butter, usually you'll cut it with some olive oil or something like that. The olive oil has a higher smoke point, kind of takes care of that and buffers the butter. But what you can do is saute. When you're doing steaks, if you're going to sear them off, you're roasting vegetables, you can use clarified butter or ghee, and that'll boost that smoke point up to around 485. So you get about 100-degree higher heat out of clarified butter that doesn't have that milk fat. Also, a lot of it has the lactose, the casein, that is the lactose, and all of that kind of wicked out. And so those that are intolerant or have a milk allergy usually can handle clarified butter even better. So you melt that butter, allow the things to separate, water evaporates, solids float to the surface, you skim them off, put them through a sieve and a cheesecloth, and what's left over is this beautiful, pure butter fat with a higher smoke point, still has great flavor of butter, has a little nuttiness, great on popcorn, all of these things. It's a great thing to do. But every once in a while, everybody starts praising it again, and it's been around forever. So we'll get back to butter, more different types of butter, organic, whipped butter, European style, all these things when we return with Technique of the Week. It is the Fork Report. I'm Neil Saavedra. Let's get the news with Amy.
Are you a fighter or were you a coward? It's our time to take back the power. What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or were you a coward? It's our time to take back the power. What you gonna do?
Love that song. KFI AM 640 live everywhere on that there iHeartRadio app. Hey, everybody, it's the Fork Report, all things food, beverage, and beyond. We focus on shaking off the heaviness of the week and getting into stuff we love, and that's good food, good conversation. A lot to get to today. We're going to introduce you to some folks that have restaurants and some food you're going to want to put in your mouth, all that great stuff. Right now, we're in the middle of Technique of the Week. The technique we're looking at is butter, using butter, what kinds of butter, knowing your butter, butter, yum, yum, yum. They go back and forth, and I know that we have people that don't eat animal products of any kind, and we respect them. We respect everybody in their dietary limitations or dietary needs or dietary beliefs. It's all welcome. But I will tell you that I am not somebody who will demonize something over something else, because I just hate that. I think it causes problems with eating. I think it causes disorders. I think it causes all kinds of problems. We have learned over the years that animal fats are good. They can be nutritious and they can be valuable in cooking. We've also learned that when we've tried to mess with fats and margarine and things like that, growing up was very popular with us, that it didn't have the benefits that once were thought and actually caused some problems. So I will say that I absolutely use animal fats. I eat animals too. So it doesn't go against the way I live, but I want to recognize that out of respect to those that might have issues with it. Moving on from clarified butter to organic butter comes from cattle raised without antibiotics, which really, the way we've moved through farming and having to use things like antibiotics and growth hormones and all those things, I'm equally as down upon as I am for proper raising and the proper care of these animals. I know that might seem contradictory to some, but I just tell you, the antibiotics in there, the growth hormones, all that stuff is more garbage than we need. So organic butter is raised without those things, antibiotics, growth hormones. They're given 100% organic feed, grown without toxic pesticides, synthetic fertilizer, all of that, and you can find it in unsalted and salted, and you use it just like conventional butter. Whipped butter. This has air or other gas, like nitrogen, and it's added to make it less dense than standard butter. So kind of a little goes a long way. This increased volume is, less calories per tablespoon. It could even be half. And it's got a lighter texture, but just keep in mind it's got less calories because it's got more air in it. Best for spreading on toast, finishing dishes. It's not recommended for baking or cooking at all. It's just a spread. It's just a spread, easier to spread because it's got the air in it and it's lighter and whipped and all that. European style butter, which a lot of people love, I do too. This is, why French croissants are so lovely and airy and delicious. It's got extra milk fat, 82 to 85% for most brands. So your European style butter has less moisture. It's got less of that water in there than standard butter. and it's got all that milk fat in it. So this is like the opposite of clarified butter. Makes pastries tender, fluffy cakes. It's made with fermented or cultured cream, so it has a little bit of tang to it, and it could be used for any sort of cooking task. Spreadable butter is regular butter and some vegetable oil added in, so it spreads easier. Not recommended for baking or cooking again. Light butter, it has less than 40% or less of milk fat. Not recommended for baking or cooking also. Butter-like spread, keep that in mind, not recommended for baking or cooking either. It's just like a buttery flavored spread. So that's the basic breakdown of your butters to use. But enjoy. Just butter is one of those wonderful, wonderful things in the world. All right, we'll be back with more, so go nowhere. It is the Fork Report. I'm Neil Saavedra, KFI AM 640.
I trust that when BECU says community, they mean business.
Because profit is one thing, but people are everything.
BECU empowers us to lift our neighbors.
From the moment we're ready to share our vision with the community,
to the days we're called to lend a hand.
We chose to put our business in the hands of BECU because they shared our values. So join us at BECU.
Federally insured by NCUA. Find details at becu.org.
The drive, I'll bring the beer. It's a late, late ship, no one to fear. And ride, I'll ride. And ride, you ride. It's a roundup time.
KFI AM 640 live everywhere on that there iHeartRadio app. Hey everybody, it's the Fork Report, all things food, beverage, and beyond. I am your well-fed host, Neil Saavedra. How do you do? All right. Coming up in just a few minutes, we're going to talk to Chef Danny from Danny Boy's Pizza. I don't think we have him up and on just yet, so we will get to that. The great places that are opening up or continuing to get through, you know, you want to say the pandemic, but it's not just the pandemic. Let's be honest, also what you're dealing with is really the shutdown. The shutdown is what's caused the issues, and at this point, people are still trying to get themselves on track. Another hitch in the restaurant situation and hospitality as a whole is that they're having a hard time finding people. We'll talk to our guests coming up throughout the show today about those very things, because opening a place is one thing, getting the overhead, getting the money, getting all of those things secured is one thing. The second thing is trying to get staff right now. And for whatever reason, I know everybody's got their theories and all of that, but for whatever reason, people have reassessed their life in a way where they're looking around and making decisions whether they want to work or not work, or if they want to change their jobs. And that's just a big change in a small amount of time, and much more than we're going to be dealing with those types of things. So new restaurants, I know last week Paul called from Blue Dog Beer Tavern. We're going to have him on it coming up in just a little bit, talking about that very thing, navigating, changing, cutting down your menu, the word pivoting that we heard so much during this time, and people getting all up to speed on those things. And we're going to have to find out more and more of those things as we move forward. One of the trends that is popping up more and more, also a change from the pandemic, it seems, is alcohol, or what they call low ABV alcohol, which is, you know, it could be non-alcoholic drinks, or I'm not crazy about this particular term, but the term mocktail is often used, but also brands are getting into it and celebrating this change by putting out things like non-alcoholic wine, non-alcoholic beer, which has been around for a long time. I used to joke about near beer all the time. That's what they called it.
I think you should continue to joke about it.
Well, the weird thing, Amy King, is, you know, I get that it's the flavor people like. There's nothing wrong with that. But part of the flavor to me is the alcohol. So yeah, it is. It's part of the
get
flavor.
you. I understand what you're saying.
You know, it's part of it. Like when I say I want a booze forward drink, it's because that booze is part of the flavor to me. That's part of the thing. So I just wanted to give everybody the heads up that Stella Artois has jumped in with Liberté, a non-alcoholic beer. And if you just like the taste of beer and you don't want to drink, here's the weird thing though. If somebody's an alcoholic or a recovering alcoholic, they're probably not going to want to drink something like this because it's going to remind them of it.
Oh, I beg to differ.
Really?
Uh-huh. I
didn't know you were an alcoholic, Amy.
Well, I'm not going to say I'm not, because then if you deny, then people say you are. If you deny, so it leads to a whole different, whatever.
Then they worry.
But I have a couple of friends actually who love, we're not going to say near beer, but they like the non-alcoholic beer. Like I know that Heineken has a new 0.0 out, and there's some other kind, and I've tried them before. I'm like, oh, those taste pretty good. So they just like the flavor, and I'm like, doesn't that sort of lead you down a slippery slope? And they're like, nope.
It doesn't, huh?
I mean, I can't say that that's that way for everybody, and I'm not just saying, hey, dude, if you have a drinking problem, go try this. I'm not saying that but for these people, and it's more than one, they both have said that they just like the flavor of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, go out and get yourself some near beer, and then get in a fake fight, and you'll be golden. All right, so I think we have Chef Danny on the phone. If you could pot him up there at the station. Chef, welcome to the Fork Report.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, I've actually had your meatballs there in New York.
I very much appreciate that. I made a lot of meatballs in New York.
And we're lucky to have you. And I love the I love the name of your place. So Danny Boy's Famous Original is in downtown LA now, in the Bunker Hill area at Halo. Why don't you talk about that first a little bit? What Halo is downtown LA, and why you chose there as a location.
Halo sits kind of between. It was the Wells Fargo, between the Wells Fargo Towers, the center, being kind of a food center for downtown years. They just put a bunch of time and energy into revamping the entire thing. It's pretty beautiful, and so these kind of were torn places that would have enough foot traffic to support a by the slice joint, because we want style slice joint. You just need a lot of folks coming through because you're selling, $4 prices, and if you want the rent, you need to do the volume. And so, like with this.
Hey, Chef, we're going to put you on hold for a second while we take a break, and we're going to try and clear up the phone lines. And then when we come back, we'll chat more with Chef Danny there at Danny Boy's Famous Original in the Halo downtown LA, which is this new food area. More and more these food halls, these places where you can get plenty of different types of food. In this case, as Chef was saying, in order to do great by the slice, you got to have the foot traffic. You've got to have the foot traffic coming in. I love that about New York, and I've never understood how it hasn't become more popular here to be able to just get a slice, especially at the end of a night or something like that. It's just a great thing. When we come back, we'll talk more. We'll get all the technical stuff out of the way, and then we'll come back and talk more about this new place you got to check out, and the meatball sub, and I'll tell you when we come back. It is the Fork Report. I'm Neil Saavedra. Let's get the latest news now with Amy King in the KFI Newsroom.
Welcome to Parent Teacher Night. Oh, yes, Miss Garner.
If you have one of those airline credit cards, you're probably not earning double miles on every purchase.
You're right. My card only gets extra miles on some types of purchases.
With the Capital One Venture Card, you earn unlimited double miles everywhere.
Wait, but where can we use them?
You can use Capital One Venture Miles on any travel purchase.
Venture gets an A+.
Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
you. KFI AM 640 live everywhere on that there iHeartRadio app. Hey, everybody, it's the Fork Report, all things food, beverage, and beyond. I'm your well-fed host, Neil Saavedra. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Every Saturday, we've got 3 hours, 2 to 5, to shake off the heaviness of the week and focus on food, the people that make it, the culture behind it, cooking at home, going out to eat, and everything in between. Thanks for hanging out. Don't forget Mr. Mo Kelly coming up at 6 o'clock. And then Mark Summers is back this evening at 8 p.m. You know him from Unwrapped and Double Dare and all those good things. But fascinating guy, loves food, all of those things, produced a lot of shows that you love as well. He will be coming on tonight at 8, so join him there. We're also going to be giving away tickets again this week for the LA Wine Fest, so stick around for that, and we'll be giving them away, and I'll tell you how to call and when to call later. Right now, we're talking to Chef Daniel Holtzman from, and explain the name, because I love this name of your new place, Danny Boy's Pizza, but explain the whole name.
So Danny Boy was what my papa called me. I had a real chip on my shoulder when people called me Danny. I never liked it as a kid, and I didn't really put 2 and 2 together. When you open a restaurant called Danny Boy's, everybody calls you Danny.
Yeah,
taking a little adjustment, but I asked for it. And then famous original. So in New York, there's a famous feud that's gone on for years and years. I mean, like 40 years between the different Ray's restaurants. So someone opened a Ray's restaurant. It was one of the early kind of great New York slice joints. And then one of the guys that worked there broke off. There's a documentary about it called The Original, if anybody's interested. But, they called themselves, the guy broke off, opened another pizzeria, called himself, The Original Ray's. And then the other guy said, well, I'm the famous Original Ray's. And it went back and forth, and it just kind of like, then there's Ray Barry's Famous Original. So growing up in the 80s in New York City, there were like 50 original famous Ray's restaurants, and no one knew. I don't really know for certain exactly where the actual original Ray's existed. So that was kind of a little bit of a play on that, and an homage to those restaurants that I love so much.
I got a kick out of it because following that story as I have over the years, it's just hilarious to figure out what's what. And, and them is fighting words in New York when it comes to pizza, and defending your ground is pizza and certain, foods. So
it's such a fun industry, because one of my favorite things about working in hospitality is how welcoming and kind and generous everybody is. And
sure.
Everybody helps each other. And the rivalries are a bit tongue in cheek, but no one's gotten into a fist fight over pizza. Although,
well, speak for yourself, man. Yeah. So,
but it does exist, yeah.
So bringing all this here, your magnificent meatballs, the pizza, the food that you delivered is outstanding. It really is exactly what I want out of a slice. The crust is on point. The ratio of ingredients. I know these things might be simple to some as far as, it's only got these ingredients. Nah, it's the ratio that you put on there and the way they play together on that crust. That sub is, punch a stranger in the face good. It really is fantastic. So you're here in downtown LA. Downtown LA took a pretty major hit. A lot of things changed over the pandemic. Now that you're open, and you've been open since July or so?
We've been open for about 6 weeks now.
Gotcha.
And, look, we signed this lease, and we were getting into it before the S hit the fan a couple of years back, and I don't know if I would have chosen to be in the base of a high-rise building during COVID. I don't think that would have been a really great plan. So I've been shocked by how supportive the community is. I had no idea how many folks are down there and are willing to support a new restaurant. People come out every single day, and it feels so wonderful. Especially coming from New York, I was very nervous opening a pizzeria in LA because, I don't want people to feel like I'm coming out here from New York City, the center of pizza, and, having an attitude about pizza. And in general, I'm always nervous about that. Because I'm just trying to have a great time and make delicious pizza and feed people. So it feels great that folks have been so welcoming.
Well, I know that your meatball shop grew and grew and grew. You have not, getting too far ahead. You have your sights on growing this here as well.
I definitely have fought with that for myself. The balance between I want to get one restaurant great, and I'm there every single day, and it's so much fun. The challenge of working in the meatball shop for me was, not being as, directly connected with every customer and every employee, not knowing everybody by name, and not having the feel you open a restaurant because it's fun. It's like a pirate ship. You're on this like high stakes, but fairly low stakes game where everything seems like it's the end of the world, but it's actually a slice of pizza. And I wanted that feeling again. I wouldn't be surprised if down the road, if this works really well and I'm proud of it, which I already am, we open another. But it's definitely not it's
not the goal. It's just if the way the food gods push you, so be it.
I mean, look, the thing about a restaurant, I'm sure you've heard of a million people say, is you get great people, and we have this amazing team of people who've just come from Craigslist and shown up and are just, there's a lot of folks that want to make pizza. And if you outgrow, if the number of people you have outgrow the opportunities you have, then it's time to put another one on the map. But that's not happening anytime soon.
What do you think? And you said something there that I find the same here, talking with people all the time. People want to know how to make pizza, and people love it. What do you think the magic is about this simple dish?
Okay, so obviously, so look, if you're a chef and you're from New York, it's like, I feel like you're supposed to it's like the Matrix. You were supposed to get the chip that teaches you how to make pizza. You're supposed to already know that. Turns out there's a ton of craft that goes into making a great slice of pizza. And most of it revolves around the bread baking, because the crust is, it's the heart and the soul of the entire operation. And it's very, very, very challenging. But I think the thing that folks don't consider when they're making pizza at home is almost the most important piece of the puzzle is the temperature of the water. The temperature of the water is everything. And that's one of the things that makes New York City pizza so consistent, is that the temperature of the water in New York is consistent. Pipes freeze, they ship the water deep underground, and it comes out of the faucet around 41 degrees, 365 days a year. And so that, then everything else falls into place. And that's because it's the yeast that's growing in the bread, that's allowing it to rise and giving it all its flavor, is a temperature dependent organism. So hotter water and it moves faster and it grows faster, but maybe it doesn't have time to develop flavor. Colder water and you have more time to develop that dough and develop the flavor before the yeast kind of activity blows it up and it turns into a big old balloon.
I could talk pizza every day, all day, and I'm hoping you'll come back and do that sometime.
I think we should just continue this conversation until next Saturday, and people can tune in at that point, and we'll just still be going.
I seriously could. I'm like, I want to talk pizza. Chef Daniel Holtzman from Danny Boy's famous original. It's landed there at Halo, downtown LA, there on Bunker Hill. Gorgeous area, cool area. This meatball legend is here in the Southland. Take advantage of it. Thanks for sending the food. It was great, Chef. And we're going to have you back on so we could talk more.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm a huge fan.
Well, thanks, brother. Best of luck to you.
Cheers.
Chef Daniel Holtzman from this pizza shop. You got to check this out. I'm not joking. The pizza and the meatball sub was slap family delicious. We'll be back with more. Go nowhere. This is KFI Los Angeles.
I trust that when BECU says community, they mean business.
Because profit is one thing, but people are everything.
BECU empowers us to lift our neighbors.
From the moment we're ready to share our vision with the community,
to the days we're called to lend a hand.
We chose to put our business in the hands of BECU because they share our values. So join us at BECU.
Federally insured by NCUA. Find details at becu.org.